So this is a definitive video on writing a cold email offer that actually converts and brings you lots of pipeline revenue and lots of booked calls and lots of closed clients. The campaign that you're seeing here on the screen right now brought me about 108K of campaign pipeline revenue, and I closed 4 clients from this. So around 25% close rate from all these 17 unique positive replies that I got. And a few of them are still in nurture for me. So I'm still sending them emails. I have a subsequence that engages them every 2 weeks or so. And I am still booking calls from this campaign that I ran in March. So I just wanted to share exactly what the copy and what the offer looks like for this campaign. And hopefully you can take some lessons from this and probably try to replicate it for your own campaigns and for your own offers and for your own verticals, essentially. So this was essentially a web design offer that also kind of and I have the email copy right here. I'll get on into that just in a second. Coincided with a lead generation offer. So essentially, this web design offer was essentially me promising any client a completely organic way of getting more clients, right? A um, B2B cold email offer is extremely oversaturated with particularly these companies that I'm going to be going over. And I wanted to test something different. And testing something different meaning I want to be promising the same deliverables, but in a different way, but frame it in a way that actually makes them achieve their dream outcome, and also sells my offer at the same time. And my offer was essentially give them an organic way of getting clients without spending a cent on ads, right? And this is exactly how I got more than 100K of pipeline revenue and 4 new clients at almost a 25% close rate from all these 17 replies, and a few still in the pipeline that I'm nurturing as of now. So let's go over the offer, shall we? So essentially, I typically see these kinds of long emails. So remember, if you have seen my other videos, I talk about cold email offers in and copywriting in about 3 to 4 different steps, right? When I say 3 to 4 different steps, so essentially what it comes down to is the first thing is essentially the subject line, or maybe this could not be the first line, this could be the zeroth line, right? The subject line is essentially a very simple thing that attracts attention and looks like an internal email within their company. It doesn't look like a cold outreach, right? That's the most important part about subject line. It doesn't have to be hard. The subject line, I won't go over this too much in detail, but it only needs to be around 2 to 3 words. That's it. And it could be something like their first name, question. That's it. It's that simple. Subject line doesn't have to be too hard to actually experiment with. You can do a subject line question, or you can just remove the question and just do a question mark. That's it. The three things that I do want to talk about, and let me write this beside the actual offer itself, or I can do it here. Yeah, let's do it here. The first thing I want to talk about is essentially the personalization line, and this is also called an opener line in cold email. The second thing is your offer, and the third thing is your case study. Obviously these all of these points do not need to be written down in the same exact order. You can except the opener line, you can obviously tell your case study first and make it relevant to them. you know if you have achieved some good results with a company by working with a company similar to them, you can just mention it before you mention your offer, so that your offer sells better when you already have shown them that okay, you know what you're talking about, by giving them some proof of your previous work, right? So once you do that, you already mention a case study, mention offer, and then um whoops, I ran out of space. That's fine. So I can just remove the case study, and then you have the CTA, and you have to make sure to, you can have a PS line as well. The problem here is that most people actually mess up the CTA and just ask for a meeting in the, in the first email. You can do that if your offer is extremely personalized and you have a lot of research in the email and your vertical is not that big. You can obviously get away with doing some kind of meet ask, like a hard ask. I typically want to do soft asks. Um, Essentially, is this worth sharing more? So asks like, is this worth sharing more, or can I share more info, or can I show you this in a 10-minute call? Even if you do ask for a meeting, just say that, okay, uh, you give them an out. So essentially, if you say something like, can I share more info? This is already a soft ask, right? But if you're doing a hard ask, for example, if you're asking for meeting in the first email, so what you can do is essentially do it in two parts. The first part is essentially, can I show you this in a 10-minute call? This is your first part. If not, or if that's too much, will a one pager on how this will work for company name question mark. So essentially what you do is make your CTA work for every company in by making sure that your CTA is like dialed in a way that your 10-minute call is proceeded immediately with a ask that is like 50-100% lower than the immediate call. So most people will not want to have an immediate call with somebody in the somebody strange in their inbox. So this one captures their interest as well, which is, if that's too much, then can I share a one pager? Essentially, you sharing a PDF or you sharing a link to a specific case study on your website. So people can actually click around and see that, okay, this is what you're talking about, this is more details and so on. For example, for my agency now, whenever people ask for more info, I essentially send them to this page, which is my home page of the website. I show them their case study, and this is a 53-minute video uh, that they can actually watch and get familiarized with exactly the offer that I'm talking about. And so many people have actually told me that, okay, this is an extremely good video, and so many people have brought up this VSL, this video sales letter that I have on my page, and they always talk about, in the discovery call that I get from these people, they always talk about that, how much they enjoyed watching that video. So you can share any kind of lead magnet like that, and if you have everything outlined on your landing page itself, then it's the best way to actually sell your offer. And people will come back if you have like a genuinely good video sales letter here. I go over an extremely long Google Doc in this 53-minute, and if people even skip around and watch for like 5 minutes, they will have way more trust than you trying to convince them in just an email. So this is how a CTA actually works. You can either have a soft ask or you can have a hard ask, but complement that with a soft ask, right? So that people don't feel as if they have to commit. The lower the commitment these days, the more chances that people reply. And it's just instead of booking a meeting in 1 to 3 follow-ups, you book it in about 4 to 6 follow-ups instead. So it's like a double the amount of follow-ups. So it's fine. You are still booking the meeting. It's just that if you want a meeting booked next Monday, or this Friday, you have to start running these follow-ups, or even your first email from Monday. So it's a little bit of a little bit of a friction for you, not for them. So essentially, you're making sure that all of the work that is being done by following up, trying to talk to them, by warm calling them, all of that is done on your side, instead of making that hard ask and then turning them off and just not getting the reply in the first place, right? So these are the things that I wanted to talk about before I went into the email itself. Now let's go into the email, and see exactly how why this offer was working so well. Let me just remove these notes from here, and we can go over this. Okay, perfect. So as you'll see here, the first line here, the first line is essentially the opener line, and I don't know why. Okay, good enough. So for the first line is the opener line, right? The opener line is essentially, hey name, hey Abby in this case, love your work on this form. So you essentially are personalizing it just for them so that they understand that, okay, you have taken a look at their company or you're talking about their company so that they feel compelled to keep reading. The purpose of the opener line is essentially making them interested enough to keep reading. That's it. That's the only job of the first line, and you have to make sure that it's not too complicated or it's not, irrelevant that people just click off. And the first line is essentially, I've loved your work on this farm in particular location. Wanted to check if this is something you'd be interested in. So essentially, what you're doing is, what I did was I scraped the homepage, the domain of that company, and essentially I pulled out a case study from their website, and then I referenced it in this like first line. So the variable here was essentially this entire thing was a variable here, and this was my icebreaker variable. So essentially, what this did was uh, make this entire line, love your work with XYZ in location. Thought I'll check in to see if, yada yada yada. That's how you actually build this opener line. Obviously, you can just substitute these variables instead of writing this entire thing as a variable. You can just use XYZ in location. So this can be your icebreaker variable instead. Instead of you using this entire line as the variable, you can just, write this as a, love your work with, and you can just use company case study variable or something, and you can just continue like this. So two ways to do this: either make sure that your variable contains the entire personalization line, or you can just have the case study line here and you can insert the variables manually, right? The second line, so you already nailed the opener line, and now you want to go into the next line, which is you opening with a case study. So remember what I talked about. You can, if you know what you're doing, if you have a little bit of experience in copywriting, you'll know that in what order to put things in your cold email. So in this case, I'm putting the case study before the offer so that people actually think that, okay, I know what I'm talking about, and this is kind of similar to them. So this is relevant to them because I've already worked with a company that does what they do, right? Another company that does what they do. So this is, I recently helped a firm in San Francisco, and SF, using short form actually makes it more human. So what are the things that we did here? You mentioned the case study in a very non-braggart way, right? You don't want to sound offensive in the email, right? And then you mention a location or a case study. Essentially, you mention some revenue numbers. You mention timeline. So 40 days is essentially a timeline, right? And then you mention, uh, you know, a location or a company name, brand name, anything that's recognizable. And you'll see that I did not mention San Francisco. Instead, I said SF instead, And similarly, I won't say New York, I'll say NY or NYC or something like that. The thing here is that you want to sound more human. So essentially, when you are writing your cold email script, obviously this part is not going to be a variable, so this part is not going to be different across all of your lead list, right? So here you can actually just write this in this format. So you can write SF here, you can write NYC here. um, you know if you have a short form that people normally say, when talking to each other, nobody will say New York City, they'll say NYC. Or in text you might always refer to big cities like these as their short form. You might not say San Diego, you might just say SD, or you might not say Los Angeles, you'll just say LA. All these stuff actually make it seem like you're having a one-on-one conversation. You're having a very personalized one-on-one conversation instead of you being just going out there and blasting it to 5,000 companies in a day, right? So this is your case study, and then you actually present your offer. So let me move these things to the side. And yeah, so essentially this is your offer. So what you do in your offer is essentially, you talk about it, you talk about the unique mechanism first, right? So essentially, I'm saying here, I've built an organic system that identifies lookalike companies, no ad spend needed, and I even promise you 20 new meetings in the next 45 days, or you won't pay a cent. Essentially, what I'm selling is new client revenue is your dream outcome that you're selling. So your offer needs to actually be clear enough, and it should be mixed up with your unique mechanism so that it looks like you know what you're talking about. Remember, you've already sold yourself in your previous case study line that you inserted in the email. So people are reading it from top to bottom. They already know that you worked with another company that looks like them, and that hopefully looks like them. If it's a different vertical, you can also frame it in a way that makes it seem as if you know what you're talking about. Obviously, many things in lead generation, marketing, any kind of thing that you're selling in this client acquisition domain, most of these principles are translatable from one vertical to another. But there are some people who will object to it and say that, okay, no, e-com is much different than you selling to marketing agencies. So maybe it's different, maybe it's not. But excuse me, the thing is that you can frame it in a way that makes it relevant for them. Once you do this, they will actually see your offer, and remember what we talked about. For an offer, we need to have three things, which is deliverable, timelines, essentially 20 meetings in 45 days, and guarantee, which is risk reversal. So risk reversal, essentially, you won't pay a cent if we don't get you those 20 meetings. Obviously, when people on the call ask you about exactly getting 25 meetings, 20 meetings in 45 days, you look at their website, you look at their offer, and if they have a good offer, you will promise them the same thing. Otherwise, in the discovery phase, you will tell them, okay, for you, maybe not 45 days, maybe I can give you 20 meetings in 60 days instead, right? So you can modify your offer in the discovery call, that's fine. But here you need something that actually makes them want to reply. You need to have a good offer. You need to have something that will actually sell. And obviously, you don't want to promise 100 meetings in 30 days. That's just not realistic, right? You should not do that. Um, According to the industry vertical, you want to promise realistic results. So promise realistic ballpark results. Obviously, you're emailing to a lots of a complete lead list, so you don't know what will work for everybody. So you'll just have a ballpark number that can actually please most people on the list. That's it. That's the offer, including the unique mechanism, and then we can go over finally the CTA. Here I have a little bit more than just the CTA. I don't just ask for the meeting, or can I share more info, or if this is of interest. So my if CTA begins with this, would this be of interest, right? But then I also have another thing that I want to convey here. It's extremely super low friction, and I need only a single chat with you to get this up and running, and then I can operate the system in the background and get you clients. This is essentially me using a little bit more, giving them a little bit more info on the offer and how it works, and make it seem as if it's so easy for them to actually say yes to. You know, if we have just one meeting, and then I can just operate everything in the background and never bother them again, and just keep getting their meetings. So the only job that they have to do is essentially show up to meetings, right? So once you actually convey this actually makes it a way higher selling point, USP, unique selling point for you, than anything else you could say about it. The more easy you make somebody, the more easy somebody else's life you can make, uh, the better the reply rates will be. And you can see it here. It's like 40% reply out of 68 unique replies, 43 unique replies. So essentially, I got around, uh, you know, 43, 2.11%, 3.3 after you counting out of office replies. So essentially, it's like a huge number of replies for very few leads contacted. And this essentially conveys that, okay, if you are um, selling your unique mechanism in a way that makes their life even easier, so you're already promising them a huge number of meetings, right? You're already promising them new client revenue, right? Deliverable, you're already promising them the dream outcome. Along with dream outcome, you're also making it seem as if this is like the most low friction thing ever, and once they say yes, they'll be completely blown away, and so on. And the last line is essentially, really think I can help company name with this. So this is essentially, your company name. And make sure that you remove, marketing languages from that. So ABC marketing solutions becomes, if this is the company name, you just remove ABC and just make it same ABC instead. So this is essentially what I do with AI and Claude Code. This is something that I call as, what the company name casualization. Essentially, you remove all the marketing language and weird stuff like LLC or Inc. or corporation, or solutions or clinic, any firm, any kind of weird language that you would normally not refer to their company in this way, right? You won't say, really think I can benefit XYZ firm with this. No, right? You'll only say, really think I can benefit XYZ with this. So you want to casualize your company name. That's one other thing that I should probably point out. And that's it. Just say thanks as a sign off, and just point out your sending account name, or your own name. For example, I can say my own name here, or you can just say sending account name if you already have a plausible deniability with a new with a an avatar that doesn't exist. You can just say my assistant called you, and my assistant sent you an email, and you replied, and that's how get the conversation flowing forward. So yeah, this is all I wanted to talk about today. This is exactly how I write copy, by the way. It's like, there's these four different steps in writing the copy: first name, question mark, or like a very low friction subject line. If you mention somebody's first name and then a question mark, they will obviously open the email and read it, right? It's like it's so simple. People just mess up so much stuff. They just write weird stuff like 10 meetings for you, or XYZ growth opportunity for you, and stuff like this does not work. You should not write subject lines like that actually like just scream that it's a marketing material, and they will just delete it just out of spite you know so offer, case study, CTA, maybe a PS line. I did not use a PS line in my winning script, but yeah. Use this script if you want. Obviously, don't copy this exactly. Make sure to change a little bit of the offer, and modify your vertical, modify your revenue numbers, modify the way you speak about your offer, and modify the way you speak about the unique mechanism, right? Make sure to not copy this word by word, because if you think that you're the first person to actually copy something off the internet, and somebody else will not copy it and so on, it never works that way. You'll People just copy it blindly and then wonder why it's not working. So make sure to not copy it, just modify it a little bit. And Lastly, just like the video, subscribe, and I put up new uh, lessons and new videos and new things that I'm experimenting literally every day right now. So please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. And if you want all of this done for you, all of this infrastructure, this complete cold outbound infrastructure, copywriting, booked calls in your calendar done for you on autopilot, just book a call from the first link in the description, and I will see you on my strategy call. Thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.